I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on the Spotlight Network, we're diving into education innovation, student engagement, and how to create deep, meaningful learning that lasts. We're talking about a transformative book. It is called Rigor by Design, Not Chance. Deeper thinking through actionable instruction and assessment. It's written by a terrific author and veteran educator. Her name is Karin Hess, and she offers a practical roadmap for teachers seeking to challenge students' thinking, not just with more work, but with smarter strategies. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Books to Life Marketing for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. And be sure to download the Spotlight Network TV app streaming on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire TV. Karin, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you, Logan. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. Rigor is a word rather, that's used in academia a lot. Outside of academia, I'm not sure if people know exactly what it means. So talk to us a little bit about rigor and what it means as a teacher and why parents and students should be concerned about it as well.
Well, actually, rigor within academia has a lot of misconceptions. So I'll start there. One of the reasons I wrote this book, and I've been writing about deeper learning for many years, is that rigor is sometimes interpreted as you have to work harder, you have to work faster, you have to do more, and that all kids can't do that. So it separates kids into groups of kids that can and kids that can't. Rigor is actually, I often say cognitive rigor is flexible thinking. It's being able to see things from multiple perspectives. It's being able to take what you know and apply it in a new way. And that doesn't get done in most classrooms these days. We set a goal, kids meet the goal, and we go on to something new, rather than saying, now that you've learned how to write, let's see how many different ways you can use those skills. So rigor is getting all kids to think at deeper levels and own the learning.
Yeah, very, very important. Times have changed. Education has changed. I remember when I was growing up, you could not use a calculator in school. Now it's part and parcel. And you have word processors. And now you have the advent of AI, where even writing an email, would you like me to improve upon this for you? You know, so we're living in an age where we can be very lazy when it comes to rigor and rigor in education. So what's the job of the teacher today? Is it just to teach people how to access the information? Are they supposed to store the information? Are they supposed to learn how to use the information? Talk to us a little bit about the task of a teacher and the learning model today.
Yeah, it should be all of those things. But I think we all know that we're preparing kids for a world that is going to be different than the world today. So we have to teach kids how to learn, not only how to access information, but how to apply it, how to try it a new way if the first way doesn't work. And so some of the work I incorporate into the writing that I do is about how the brain processes information. We have to build mental schemas so that when new information comes in, it connects to something we already know. We need to learn how to teach kids to reflect on their own learning and to figure out what went well. Just like in sports, when you watch the videotape after the game, classroom teachers need to have kids looking at the work they've produced and analyzing it from the perspective, how could I make this better? How could I get feedback from other students in the class that would help me to improve the quality of my work? So that's a very different approach. We probably grew up in a system where the teacher lectured and we memorized.
Yes.
And there's an awful lot of tests we took that 2 or 3 days later, we didn't know what we learned because we didn't learn it.
Yeah, we're cramming it into our short-term memories. We're, reciting it, route. And we're not actually understanding or, retaining that knowledge. In fact, a very small percentage of knowledge, they say, is actually retained from school.
Right.
And as
Unless you apply it, unless you use it.
exactly. I was going to say, as a
That's when it
juvenile delinquent,
sticks.
I could attest to that. But no, when you apply it, exactly, it's like anything else. I've worked as a college professor often in my career, and I can say I can lecture all day about how to use a
Mhm.
Xbox controller, but the
Mhm.
best thing for me to do is to give you one.
Right.
You know, you really
Right.
do have to take that knowledge and put it into action. Let's talk about actionable assessment and why it's
Mhm.
such a game changer in today's classrooms.
Well, the term actionable assessment comes up in the literature a lot. And as I started to work on this book, I realized there is no clear, I could find no clear definition of actionable assessment. So I created one. You know, when you have to, you say, well, what does it mean to me? It means number one, that you uncover the thinking of students, not just what they memorize. So I don't care if you can memorize a date. I want you to tell me why that date is important. And that
Mhm.
tells me how you're processing that information. So uncover the thinking. And then the second part is if I know what you're thinking, I can figure out how close you're getting to the learning target.
Mhm.
So then I can give you feedback. I can provide an intervention. I can support you in getting there. That's different from saying you got the answer wrong. Sorry, we're going on to the next day's lesson. And so I work a lot with teachers to show them how to change their classroom assessments so they're asking thinking questions as opposed to recall the facts questions.
Exactly. And you know, some people have great recall
They
and you
do.
know, and but not the
They're on
greatest critical
Jeopardy.
thinking. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Without a doubt. They're the Jeopardy champs. Break down for us, if you will, the five essential teaching moves highlighted in your book.
Yeah. So applying the research in a practical way, the first one is asking probing questions. Probing questions is when a teacher asks a question. I might ask you a question and you don't quite give me a full answer. So I probe a little bit more. I say, what makes you say that? What makes you think that? Is that always the case? So
Mhm.
I keep asking a series of probing questions to get at your thinking. That's the A in the A, B, C, D, E. B is build schema. Help kids to build a mental schema so they connect ideas because connecting ideas is the first step towards long-term memory.
Mhm.
C is consider how to scaffold the learning. So this is where I hear all the time from teachers, well, can all kids do this? Can young students do this? But if you consider ways to scaffold the learning and make it accessible, they all can learn.
Mhm.
The D is learn to design a complex task, not a task that students are just giving us back what they've memorized, but asking them to apply it usually in a performance-based way. So don't tell me you know how to swim, jump in the pool and swim
Right.
for me. And then the E is engage students in metacognitive activities. Ask them, what did you learn from this? How are you improving your performance? Can you show me some examples of the work you're doing that shows progress? Because that puts the student in charge of looking at their progress. And we know that's the number one reason kids perform at higher levels is they can see their own progress. And it's not about my grade went up. It's I can see my writing is getting more clear, or I can see that my mathematics problem solving is more thorough or more precise. When they can see their progress, they're motivated to make more progress.
Who's your target audience? Educators of children K through 12, beyond? Tell us about that.
Primarily, it's teachers K through 12. Um, the beauty of this book is it's not just for math teachers. It's not just for elementary
Yes.
teachers. Any teacher can pick up this book and find appropriate strategies at their grade level, at the students' ability levels. It's also for graduate courses where teachers or pre-service teachers are learning how to teach. So many of those people are taking courses in how to design an assessment, but they're learning how to create multiple choice tests
Mhm.
as opposed to tests of thinking and reasoning. So I would say primarily K-12 and school leaders find it useful because in the book, I have tools for them to do walkthroughs in the classrooms and look for key activities that they can observe. They can observe what's the teacher doing and what are the students doing, and give feedback to the teachers, just like you want the teacher to do for students. We can actually unpack those actions for teachers to improve their performance.
Does teaching, or what we sometimes call learning, need to be more individual based?
No.
No. Interesting.
And here's the thing, that the more we can get kids to work with a partner, the more we can get small groups and classroom discourse to uncover thinking. Every student's thinking is lifted up because now I heard 5 different ways to express an idea. So when I started teaching, we did a lot of individualization. That was exhausting because I had to sort of design lesson plans for every student in my class. And in truth, they are at different levels when they enter your classroom. But if we can find ways to have multiple entry points into the lesson, so maybe I'm teaching a math lesson about what the equal sign means, but I might start with, can you balance these things on a scale so that it balances? But that's about equivalence. But everybody can use the manipulatives. Then I move from that to, what does it look like with numbers and counting? So we just need to find ways to provide entry points and access for all students.
Interesting. Teachers today, do you think they have it harder than ever? It seems like there's so many distractions, including these.
Yes, yes.
A lot of dysfunction in family life and in homes. A lot of teachers are kind of left, fulfilling the role of family as opposed to educator. How do you balance all those roles that a teacher is forced to take on nowadays, from being a social worker one moment to being a teacher the next?
A lot of those issues existed in the 15 years that I taught and in the years that I was a building principal. But I think what's changed is a lot about the social pressures on not only students, but on their parents, on the teachers, on the school board. There's a lot of outside pressures that I can't remember having to worry about. So I think when teachers have confidence in the things that they're doing in a classroom, there's evidence of learning. And that's what it comes down to. I used to say to my teachers when I was a principal, I'm only going to support the best strategies that we can come up with. Because if we do that, every child will learn. And every child in our schools was learning. And that's what the parents want. They want the kids to be learning.
Yeah.
So I think it's about, how can we help kids demonstrate their learning in a way that we have confidence in our schools? There's an interesting fact that most people will say they trust their local school, but they don't trust education in general. And I think it's because when they actually see the results of what comes out of their public schools or even their private schools in their communities, they can see that their children are learning or getting support. And so I think on a national level, there's a lot of negativity about education. And I think that's a shame, because I think teachers work very hard and they care about your kids and my kids.
No, I agree. I think teachers work very hard. And I do think kids today are just as smart, if not smarter, than the kids who graduated when you and I graduated. They just have a different type of knowledge. Certainly, they're more digitally adept.
Yes.
They're more street savvy and street wise, I think. They might not be able to list all of the American presidents in order, but they would be able to get that information in 2 seconds on ChatGPT.
And they
So
would probably say, why? Why do we need to?
yeah, exactly. It's interesting. And your book is a powerful tool for teachers and educators, no doubt. The name of the book is Rigor by Design, Not Chance: Deeper Thinking Through Actionable Instruction and Assessment. It is a powerful book that offers a practical roadmap for teachers seeking to challenge students' thinking, not just with more work, but with smarter strategies. It is packed with actionable insights, and this book empowers educators to design tasks that promote critical thinking, growth mindset, and student ownership of learning. Karin, thank you so much for joining me here today on Spotlight.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time and your insight and your wisdom. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.